Welcome back to another weekly market forecast with me, Tremaine, guys, and in today's one I'm going to be taking you guys through the top 6 pairs on my watch list for the coming week. Not only, guys, will we be going through these pairs, but will I also add some explanations as to why I'm looking for the particular directional biases, and also will I be sharing with you guys the points of interest that I'm looking to take these trades. So for today's weekly market forecast, guys, we're going to be getting into the DXY, Aussie CAD, Aussie Swiss franc, Aussie dollar, New Zealand dollar JPY, and USD ZAR. Starting off with the DXY, guys, we're on the daily chart, and what we can observe from a daily perspective is similar structure as we observed last week. So what we have is our important key resistance area up at this region over here. So we see prices approaching this area nice and correctively. So we've isolated this corrective structure. Obviously we want to see how is the market approaching our area of value. Now what we can see is that the market is approaching in the form of this ascending structure. This ascending structure has given us a first touch in this region here, a second touch over here, and obviously we can expect the market to come and terminate, giving us that nice beautiful third touch. So if we come into the most recent price action, what we will see about the nature of this structure on the DXY on the daily is that we are stuck in some sort of a range. Now we do see the market giving us this move to the upside. We then see market giving us nice resistance in this area, and obviously coming down to respect some support. So we basically see market creating some levels of structure in between this resistance and this support, so giving us this nice sideways moving range. So what we can do about this range is treat it exactly like what it is. So when we go down onto the 4-hour, we'll obviously observe some nature in the price action. Now we're treating this range exactly like what it is, selling probabilities obviously from the high of the range and buying probabilities from the low of this range. Now what we can see on a 4-hour, if we come to the most recent price action, we will be able to isolate an ascending structure. Now where has this ascending structure terminated? This ascending structure has terminated or given us some sort of a reaction at the top or at the resistance area of this range. Now we did obviously discuss that prices can come up and still give us a nice third touch of this range, higher time frame, before we see the momentum to the downside. But what we will be doing over the course of next week is trading the structure as it is, as it stands this week. We're at resistance right now in the form of this nice beautiful ascending structure over here, and what we will be doing over the course of next week on the DXY is observing for these reversal structures, because we have seen this market making a move to the upside correctively. We have our highs, we see market breaking to the upside of our highs and breaking back below. We have new highs over here, we see the market breaking above these highs and back below. So we see this market making these higher highs and higher lows in a corrective manner. So yes, there is movement to the upside, but the momentum is not there. So we know that these structures do give us an idea of where the next momentum could come in, especially when we're trading these ranging structures. So because of the nature of this ascending structure, guys, over the course of next week, what we will be doing on the DXY is observing for these reversal structures that could present themselves now that the market is at some region of resistance. Whether market gives us this risk entry or a reduced risk entry after prices have broken structure in the direction that we're looking to trade, we will be looking for those sell biased trading opportunities, hoping to see the market reacting from this resistance area and then obviously now breaking our structure or breaking this range to the downside. So we were hoping to see this momentum actually following through way down to the downside, obviously breaking our higher time frame structure as well, for at least targeting, or at least for us to see prices coming down to at least these price regions over here. So we are bearish bias on the DXY over the course of next week, guys. We've gotten our move to the upside that has violated our resistance areas, and now we are looking for our sell biased setups. Starting off with Aussie CAD, guys, we are on the daily and we're gonna observe the nature of the structure on this pair. So what we can conclude about this pair is that we're in some sort of a large corrective structure, because we're seeing prices from these regions over here entering some sort of a corrective structure, and obviously we see a lot more volatility in this piece of price action over here. So that's basically why we observed and basically just isolated this structure over here. So we've taken into account our most recent resistance areas, obviously allowing us to draw our nice trend line in this area over here, our resistance trend line, and as well as our most recent support structures, allowing us to draw this nice support trend line over here. So what we can observe about this structure is that this structure does obviously have the potential to come down and give us this third touch in structure before we find that upside momentum. Why are we looking for upside momentum? Because we can see that we are at these support regions here, and we can see that price is giving us a corrective structure at these higher time frame support regions. So as long as we're at these support regions here and we're seeing prices giving us decelerating structures to the downside, we're going to be looking for momentum to blow to the upside. Now obviously I tell you guys week in and week out that we always need to remember our previous biases, not for the purpose of trading our previous biases, but because our previous biases had reasons. So there was a time that we were obviously bullish bias from the structural region here, and the reason why we were bullish bias was because of this nice beautiful inverse head and shoulders here, giving us some nice deceleration, prices breaking back above this structural area. We never ever got that retest of price action in this neckline of this inverse head and shoulders structure. So what we can see about the nature of the daily here is that we are at this area of previous resistance that can function as support, and what we are seeing is prices reacting from this region. We are seeing some nice bullish pin bars in this area over here. Now one thing about price action is that we've seen price approaching this area fairly impulsively. So what we're going to be doing when we are now 4 hour, we're obviously going to be observing the nature of price action here, observing that our most recent price action over here is obviously decelerating towards this higher time frame support structure over here. So what we will be looking for is for our reversal structures. What we do have is our previous area of support in this area that has been broken, but we can see that it's been broken correctively. So what we will be waiting for is for prices, guys, to break above this region and obviously give us a beautiful retest of structure before we look for our upside continuation to then follow through on our bullish bias and obviously whatever bullish momentum might come into Aussie CAD. So conclusion being, guys, that we are bullish bias for the course of next week on Aussie CAD. We're waiting for these structures to give us our beautiful entry criteria. So whether or not prices give us this nice reduced risk entry up top, or whether prices come down to give us a nice inverse head and shoulders on a smaller time frame by coming to retest the structure again before we move to the upside, guys, we're going to be bullish bias, observing for that bullish bias structure to begin to form to allow us to be able to press buy on this bullish bias. Getting into Aussie Swiss franc, guys, on the daily, what we can see about this structure is that we've seen our beautiful sell side momentum that we've been waiting for a while on Aussie Swiss franc. So what we have about this structure is that this structure is in some sort of an uptrend. So we do see prices giving us highs, giving us higher lows, giving us higher highs. Now what we can see about this structure is that our previous resistance areas, prices broke above, and obviously we've broken back below this structure. If we also look at this uptrend that's been happening on a daily, we've seen that prices have also broken below this ascending trend line that obviously was holding or keeping this structure as a bullish trending structure. Now what we can notice about this structure is obviously that prices have given us some corrective nature, so we could be expecting prices to be in a larger corrective structure. Now what we can see about the structure on a 4 hour on a lower time frame is that we have broken below our important key resistance areas and as well as support on this way to the downside. So let's just move to our most recent price action and zoom in here. Now what we obviously can see is that we've broken our key support structures in this area over here, and we've also broken our support trend line. So what we'll be looking for over the course of next week, guys, is for our Aussie Swiss franc to give us our corrective structures into our previous support structures that can function as resistance, and once prices give us these beautiful retests of structures, guys, we will be looking for that downside continuation. So we are seeing this uptrend from a higher time frame being violated to the downside, and what we're waiting for is for price action to confirm this downside momentum by giving us a structure, a nice beautiful structure that will allow us to find an entry point, whether it's a risk entry or a reduced risk entry, and as well as manage risk by finding an area to place our stop loss. So what we're doing, guys, is we're waiting for prices to give us that last piece of confirmation to obviously align with our higher time frame directional bias, which for the course of next week is sell bias on our Aussie Swiss franc. Jumping straight into AU, guys, we're here on the daily charts, and what we can see is that we've isolated a beautiful ascending structure. So this ascending structure obviously started in these regions over here. We have some support, we have some resistance, giving us two nice resistance areas. We have new support in this area here. Obviously we see prices coming to give us a nice third touch in this structure or in this region over there. Now what we can notice about the levels of structure within this price action is that we have some resistance that prices have broken above, and we've recently seen prices breaking back below this level of structure. Now you guys know that we have been bearish bias on AU, and we have seen prices giving us these resistance areas, breaking above, breaking back below, giving us new resistance areas, breaking above, breaking back below. So we're seeing that this ascending momentum or this ascending structure here is obviously not moving to the upside with a lot of momentum, and so we're expecting momentum to come in the downside direction. So to trade this bearish bias from a daily, obviously what we'll be doing is waiting for prices to pull into our key value areas. So previous support structures that prices have broken, obviously we need to be on those lower time frames, waiting for prices to give us that nice beautiful confirmation. Now if we have to actually look at the structure here on AU, and something very important to point out is that we do see prices kind of moving to the downside, and we kind of can isolate a small structure. So we'll just add some resistance just so that we're able to manage this trade. Now what we will be waiting for obviously is for prices to give us that move to the upside. Why to the upside? To allow us to get involved in a higher selling opportunity. Once prices have made this move to the upside, we'll obviously be observing for prices to give us some price action that allows us to jump into this nice sell biased trading opportunity. So it doesn't really matter how prices give us the sell setup, whether we push to the upside one more time or whatever the case is, guys, we will be sell biased on AU, waiting for prices to come and give us sell bias setups in this region over here, where obviously we'll be targeting our important key support areas down low. So bearish bias over the course of next week on AU, guys. This is the structure that we will be looking out for. Getting into New Zealand dollar JPY, guys, we are on the daily chart here, and what we can notice about this daily chart is that we have isolated some beautiful structure. Now we've seen this ascending structure forming here on New Zealand dollar JPY higher time frame structure. We have our first touch of resistance, we have our second touch of resistance, and guess where prices are right now? At this third touch region of our beautiful ascending structure. Now we know that ascending structures normally break to the downside, so we're looking to trade the directional bias that this structure allows us to formulate. So considering that prices are at this third touch region of obviously this ascending structure, we will be looking for our sell biased setups to form. Now looking at the most recent structure here on the daily, we've obviously broken above our resistance areas over here, and prices have broken nice and impulsively, so obviously showing us that there are buyers present in this market. So what should we be waiting for here on higher time frame structure for us to be looking for our sell bias setups? We need to be waiting for prices to give us some sort of a reversal structure to allow us to trade this bearish bias momentum. So what we will be looking for on New Zealand dollar JPY, guys, and the reason why I included this on my watch list is so that we can be, or rather so that the market can give us the opportunity to watch our setup develop. Now if we go down onto the 4 hour, guys, what we will see about this structure is that we are still forming some potentially bullish biased structure. Now what we have here is obviously a nice beautiful obvious impulsive move to the upside, then obviously we see prices giving us this nice descending structure that is some sort of a corrective structure. Now obviously we're at the third touch of this descending structure, and we could be expecting prices to give us that move to the upside. Now considering, and the reason why we started from our higher time frame analysis is because if we do manage to jump into any buys from this region over here, we will be managing our buys aggressively, not looking to target more than the 90% rule of this structure. Why? Because we're at the third touch of our higher time frame resistance areas, and as well as we're going to be looking for sell bias structure to form once prices do begin to come to these resistance areas. So all we're doing on this pair on New Zealand dollar JPY, guys, is we know that we want to be sell biased from a higher time frame. What we need to do is wait for prices to come into a region where we will find selling probabilities. What's going to allow those, or what's going to give us a trading opportunity, is the structure that the market will develop once we've come into this area where we're expecting our probabilities to begin to start formulating, or rather for the probabilities to begin to tip on our side. So guys, we're going to be bearish bias on New Zealand dollar JPY. Yes, there is the potential for New Zealand dollar JPY to push to the upside, but we will be managing our bullish biases very aggressively, waiting for prices to give us sell bias setups so that we can trade any long-term higher time frame sell side momentum that might come from these third touch regions, all the way to the downside, maybe even coming to violate our higher time frame key support structures over there. So higher time frame sell bias on New Zealand dollar JPY, just waiting for our structure to give us an entry. Jumping into the last pair that we're going to be analyzing for this week's weekly market forecast, USDZAR, guys. We are on the daily, and one thing we have to say about structure is that we can observe and we can see price is very obvious that we're in a higher time frame, larger corrective structure, because what we can see is that price came in from the top, established some support, established some resistance. We then see prices giving us a larger corrective structure because we observe these key support structures here obviously being broken back above. So we understand that this is one large corrective structure, and if we were to see where we are within this large corrective structure, what we can notice is that we're close to our resistance area. So we're at our sell sensitive region. So obviously treating this like what it is, trading price action exactly where it is, we're at the resistance area of this structure. We've also isolated a nice sell setup or sell bias structure here on the daily, obviously observing our key resistance areas. First touch there, second touch there. We're seeing prices at this third touch region also showing us that sell side momentum. So what we're going to be doing, guys, on USDZAR over the course of next week is looking for our sell biased setups to form. What we've seen is prices breaking above our key resistance areas and breaking back below. So obviously corrective price action in this region over here. So what we will be expecting is a corrective structure. Whether that structure does form in the form of an ascending structure, whether that structure does form in the form of a double top structure over here with a nice break and a retest of structure, doesn't really matter. We are looking for sell biased setups in our sell biased region over there. So guys, whether that means even we're on those smaller time frames waiting for prices to come back and retest this key area for those moves to the downside, we're sell biased on USDZAR, waiting for prices to give us price action that allows us to jump into this trade. So obviously we know that formulating a forecast obviously involves us pinpointing a directional bias, so understanding which direction we need to trade, and as well as finding a point of interest where we will be looking to trade that particular setup. Now on our lower time frames, we look for our entry criteria, and the reason why we stop our forecast on these higher time frames is that the only reason we're jumping down onto lower time frames is to refine an entry, and so we still need to wait for prices to come into our points of interest, those value key areas, before we drop down onto our lower time frame. So the structures that price will formulate in these key areas, we can never be able to forecast. We don't know whether price is going to give us a double top or an ascending structure. We have no reason, or we have no way of knowing, but what we do know is that this is our key area in this region here, and if price does give us a setup that allows us to see some sell biased trading opportunities, then we will be able to capitalize and trade this directional bias in this value key area that we've observed from our higher time frame analysis. So that's exactly what we're going to be looking at on USDZAR sell setups over the course of next week, guys. We have reached the conclusion of this week's weekly market forecast. Thanks so much, guys, for watching until the end. If you've received the value that has been intended for you, drop a like before you leave the video, and otherwise, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss any future content. This is Tremaine, your FX Chaser's mentor. I will see you guys in our future videos, guys. Have a great week. Cheers.